Hi everyone and welcome to SOLIDWORKS Model Mania made in Fusion 360. Today we are going to take up the challenge of Model Mania year 2012. Let's start off by inspecting our 2D drawing. And notice here we have a side view and a top view. In this challenge, I'm going to place the center point of this arc on our origin. Let's now head back to Fusion 360. I'm going to hit C for circle to create that arc. And I'm going to sketch on our XZ plane, selecting this plane. And the radius of this arc is 7. 7 multiplied to 2 is 14. So the diameter of this circle would be 14. Hitting enter. Let me zoom in. In addition, we can turn this dimension into a radial dimension by simply selecting the dimension, right-click, and selecting toggle radius. So notice it's now 7. Let's zoom out and create another 2 circle. So I'm going to right-click and select repeat center diameter circle. Creating 2 circles somewhere around here. So notice I did not input any value for now. Instead, I immediately left-clicked and hitting escape. I want these 2 circles equal with each other. So selecting these 2 circles, holding control, left-click, right-click, and select equal. Next, the diameter of these 2 circles is 9. I'm going to hit D for dimension. Let me dimension this right circle. Let me place the dimension here. Key in 9. Dimension tool still active. In addition, the distance between the center points of these 2 circles is 24. And instead of creating an arc concentric with these 2 circles, I'm going to create 2 circles in addition. So hitting C for circle, creating another circle here, concentric. Left click here, hitting escape. The radius of the arc here is 9. I'm going to hit D for dimension once more. 9 multiplied to 2 is 18. Hitting escape. Let me toggle this circular dimension into a radial one. So selecting 18, right click and selecting toggle radius. Next, I'm going to select these 2 outside circles, right click and make them both equal. Hitting escape. Moving forward, the center points of these 2 circles should be aligned horizontal. So let's head up to constraints, selecting horizontal constraint. Selecting this center point and this center point. Hitting escape. Next, I'm going to hit D for dimension and let's dimension the distance between this center point and this center point. Placing our dimension here, left click, key in 100. Hitting enter. Hitting escape and in addition, let's define the distance between this center point and this center point. Hitting D, selecting the center point and the center point. Let's move our cursor to the left. Left click here, key in 30. Hitting enter and hitting escape. And before we create the arcs, there's a line here. So let me hit L for line. Place a line at the intersection. Move to the right. So notice the inferred horizontal constraint. In addition, notice that our line command has an arc. And that means we can create an arc within the line command. So once more, we are in the line command. And to create that arc, I'm going to left click and hold. So once more, I'm still holding my left mouse button. Move to the intersection of this circle and release. Hitting escape. Let's create another arc. This time, I'm going to hit S for our shortcuts, typing A, R, C, and selecting 3-point arc. Placing our first point at this intersection, second point here, left click, move up. So notice the inferred tangent constraint, left click, hitting escape. And from here, let's grab our tangent constraint and add that constraint on this arc and this circle. On this arc and this circle. Hitting escape. And let's repeat the arc here. Hit S for shortcuts, typing A, R, C, selecting 3-point arc. Let me zoom in. Left click here, move up. Notice once more the inferred tangent constraint. Left click, hit escape, move up, grab our tangent constraint, add that constraint to this arc and this circle. Hitting escape. Double click on our mouse wheel to zoom extents. And we're missing a tangent constraint here. Selecting this line, holding control and left click on this circle. Right click and select tangent. FYI, and that's one of the cool things in Fusion 360. Whenever you select an entity, Fusion 360 will suggest the appropriate constraints for that. So with that technique, we don't have the need to head up over this toolbar and select these constraints. Let's add the dimensions on these arcs, hitting D, selecting this arc, placing our dimension here, key in 100, hitting enter, selecting this arc, the radius to be 100. Let's zoom out and inspect, hitting escape, and lastly, this arc needs a dimension. With this selected, I can also hit D, and the radius for this arc is going to be 15. Hitting enter. Let's zoom out. It all turned into color black, which means our sketch is now fully defined. I can now select Finish Sketch. And before we do some extrusion, let's sketch this top view first. Heading back to Fusion 360. This time, to quickly enter sketch mode, I'm going to hit R, which is the shortcut for rectangle. Prompted to select a plane or a planar face, I'm going to select our XY plane. Next, I'm going to create 3 rectangles. First one here, second one, and the third one. So notice I did not input any value or dimension right away. Hitting escape. Next, this vertical lines has a length of 8 millimeters. So I'm going to select all of this vertical lines. In this instance, I'm going to select the 3 and right click, selecting equal. Next, I'm going to hit D for dimension and dimension this vertical line. Placing my dimension here, key in 8. So notice all of this vertical lines have now the length equal to 8. Moving forward, let's focus on this vertical line. and rotate our sketch. This line needs to be coincident with the tip of this circle. And to do that, I'm going to hit P for Precheck, selection filter to be specified entities, projection link enabled, and I'm going to select this circle. Selecting OK. So notice it projected a point. Next, let me head back to our top view. And I would like this point placed at the midpoint of this vertical line. With that, I'm going to head over to our constraints, selecting midpoint, selecting this point, and this vertical line. Hitting escape. Let's rotate our sketch once more, and this time, these two lines also needs to be aligned vertically with the tip of the circle. Hitting P for Precheck, and let's project this circle. Selecting OK. Heading back to top view, let's move this vertical line on top of our projected line, specifically this point. Selecting this vertical line as well and moving this to the right. Next, let's align them vertically, selecting vertical, selecting this point, and this point, and this point. Heading back to top view once more. Hitting escape. Next, I'm going to create a vertical line here. Hit L. Left click at this intersection and double left click. Hitting escape. My intent is to dimension this line and the center point of this circle. And that means we need to project the center point. So I'm going to hit P once more and select this center point. So notice the red dot. Left click and selecting OK. So that means the center point is now projected as this point. And from here, we can now hit D for dimension. Select this vertical line and this point. Heading back to top view. Place our dimension here and key in 35. Hitting enter. Dimension tool still active. Let's dimension this horizontal line, place our dimension here, key in 24. Hitting escape. Next, I would like these two rectangles symmetrical to this line. And with that in mind, I'm going to head up to constraints, selecting symmetry. The rule for symmetry is the last or the third selection would be the symmetry line. And that symmetry line will be this projected line. So I'm going to select this line, and our projected line. Hitting escape. Moving forward, let's create an arc here. Hitting S for shortcuts, typing ARC, selecting 3-point arc, placing our first point here, second point here, move it down. Notice the inferred tangent constraint. I'm going to commit to that one. Left click, repeating the arc, left click here, move up. Notice the inferred tangent constraint and left click. Hitting escape. Let's now dimension this arc, selecting this arc, hitting D for dimension, and the value for this one to be 20. Hitting escape. Next, I'm going to align this point and this point vertically, or I'm going to select these two arcs, right click, and have them both equal. And finally, let's hit D for dimension, select this point or this vertical line, selecting this point, place our dimension here, key in 65, hitting enter. And I prefer to clean this up by trimming away this line and this portion of this line. So take note, whenever we do trim, we lose some of the dimensions or constraints. Let's check what we are going to lose. Hitting T for trim, trimming away this vertical line, this segment of this line, same here. And hitting escape. Our sketch now fully defined. Let's now select finish sketch. Moving forward, let's extrude our first sketch. I'm going to hit E for extrude, selecting this profiles. Let me pull this arrow and change the direction to symmetric. In addition, I would like to add some intelligence to our extrusion by having our distance defined by a parameter. And that parameter is the dimension that defined this line and this line. So I'm going to hit cancel for now. Head back to our sketch 2, right click and select edit sketch. And that distance or parameter is, as I hover over 24, is D14. So take note, once more, D14, selecting finish sketch, hitting E for extrude once more, and selecting this profiles, direction, symmetric, measurement to be whole length, and for the distance, we're going to type in D14. Operation, new body, and selecting OK. So whenever D14 updates, our extrusion's distance will update as well. Using sketch 2, let's now split up this body. Let me head over to our sketches folder and make sure sketch 2 is turned on. And now let's head up to split body. The body to split is our only body, which is a body 1. Activating splitting tools. And that splitting tools will be this sketch. Inspecting. And I'm going to enable extend the splitting tools. And notice at our bodies folder, as I hit OK, we now have 4 bodies. Next, I'm going to select this bodies, retaining body 1, right click and select remove. Lastly, let's add the fillets. I'm going to hit F for fillet. But first, I'm going to head up to select. Under selection filters, I'm going to disable select all and enable body edges. And making sure window selection is turned on, I'm going to create a window to select all of this body's edges. Next, I'm going to hold Control to deselect this circular edges. Once more, holding control to deselect, holding control and left click. The radius to be 2, leaving the defaults and selecting OK. And congratulations for completing phase 1 of this 2012 Model Mania Challenge. Thank you so much for reaching up to this point in the video. Inviting you to join us in Facebook. It's Autodesk Fusion 360 User Group Philippines. And in LinkedIn, we are Fusion 360 Worldwide Users. Lastly, support us by subscribing to Autodesk Community Philippines as we train more students and educators into the world of Autodesk. Okay, welcome to phase 2. Now, the difference between 1 and 2 are, this time from 65, this is now 85. From 35, this is now 18. And notably, we have this recess. And this arc was now extended up to this point. And from the radius 50, this is now 30. Let's head back to our phase 1 model. Let's move back in time to our sketch 1. I'm going to head over to our timeline, select our timeline marker, left click and hold until we reach sketch 1. Heading over to sketch 1, selecting sketch 1, right click and select edit sketch. Let me create a line here horizontally, hitting L, creating a line and going to the right, double left click to end the chain, hitting escape. And I prefer creating a new arc here instead of reconnecting this to this endpoint. So I'm going to hit S for shortcuts, typing ARC, selecting 3-point arc, place our first point at this endpoint, moving over to this circle, move up. So once more, notice the inferred tangent constraint, left click here, hit escape. I'm going to delete this arc, hit D for dimension, and let's dimension this arc to be 30. Hitting escape. In addition, the distance between this horizontal line and this horizontal line needs to be 12. But first, let me make sure this line is horizontal. So with this selected, I'm going to right click, selecting horizontal. Hitting escape. Next, I'm going to delete 7 or simply change this to 6. So I prefer complying with our 2D drawing, hitting D for dimension and dimensioning this line and this line to be 12. Hitting escape. Next, this line needs to be tangent with this circle. Let's head up, selecting tangent, selecting this line and our circle. Let's inspect and notice we need to add a tangent constraint between this arc and this circle. The arc now selected, I'm going to hold Control and left click this circle, right click and select tangent. Hitting escape, I would like to add the line here, but this line is dependent on our second sketch. So for now, let me delete this and select Finish Sketch. And let's now turn our attention to Sketch 2. So I'm going to select Next Step, or simply drag our marker, selecting Sketch 2, right click, selecting Edit Sketch. Let's revise 35 to 18, 65 to 85. Selecting Finish Sketch. Let's move one step and inspect. Let's redefine our Extrude 1, selecting this. Right-click, selecting Edit Feature. Next, I'm going to hold Control to add this profiles. Selecting OK. Moving forward, let's check what's going to happen if we reveal or unsuppress split. Notice here, we didn't capture the material that needs to be removed in this area. Let me resuppress this split once more. Next, let me turn on the visibility of Sketch 2. Previously, our intent is to modify Sketch 1 to create the vertical line here. And that vertical line intersects with this point. And notice, if we edit Sketch 1, Sketch 2 will not be visible because Sketch 2 is the latest. So in order for us to create that line here, we need Sketch 2 to happen before Sketch 1. To do that, I'm going to head back to Sketch 1, right-click and select Edit Sketch. Next, making sure under Selection, Window Selection is enabled. I'm going to create a window selection to select all. Hit Ctrl-C to copy. Select Finish Sketch. Next, we're going to create a new sketch. And let's sketch on our XZ plane. Let me turn off the visibility of body 1. And sketch 1. And this time, I'm going to hit Ctrl-V to paste. Let me move this up for me to easily apply constraints. Selecting OK. And finally, I'm going to have this point and our origin with both of them selected. I'm going to right-click and select Coincident. So notice, it's now fully defined, and from here, I can now hit P for Precheck. Selection filter is specified entities, and I'm going to enable projection link. Selecting this point, selecting OK, heading to front view, hitting L for a line, and I'm going to create a line from this point all the way down vertically. Hitting Escape. Let's clean this up by trimming this segment, hitting T for trim, hitting Escape, and let's align this point and this point vertically. So selecting vertical, selecting this point and this point. Selecting Finish Sketch. Let's turn on the visibility of body 1 and turn off Sketch 2. Next, we're going to select Split Body. The body to split is our only body. Activating Splitting Tools. Let's try selecting this line and this circle. So notice we have an error, which means we have to redefine our sketch. I'm going to hit Cancel and return to our latest sketch, which is Sketch 3. Right-click, selecting Edit Sketch, and let's turn off the visibility of body 1. I'm going to hit T for Trim, and I'm going to trim away this arc, hitting Escape. Let's check if this will work. Selecting Finish Sketch. Moving up and selecting Split Body. Body to split is Body 1. Activating Splitting Tools. Let's select this line. And notice, we got this now right. Let's turn on the visibility of a Body 1. And I'm going to select OK. Let's now unsuppress Split 1, moving our marker. Let's also unsuppress our 3 remove. Inspecting. Let's check top view and the front view. And we are right on track. Next, because we now have multiple bodies, let's now turn them all into one. So we're going to head up to Modify and select Combine. Target body, let's select a Body 1. And for the tool bodies, selecting the rest. Operation Join. And let's disable New Component and Keep Tools. Selecting OK. And finally, let's apply fillets. Let's check if our fillet will work out on suppressing this. And from here, we need to edit this fillet. So selecting fillet, right-clicking, and selecting Edit Feature. I'm going to hold Control and add this edges. Holding Control, adding this edge, inspecting, and leaving the defaults. Finally, selecting OK. Congratulations! And now we are done with Phase 2. Congratulations for reaching up to this section of Model Mania 2012 challenge. Let's now move on to simulation. I'm going to change our workspace by heading up and selecting this drop down, selecting simulation. Prompted to select a new study. In this instance, we are going to conduct a static stress study. Double left click on this. And before we begin, notice in this section up under Solve, we have a Precheck. And on Precheck, notice that we have this X mark, which means some important inputs are missing. And as we have fulfilled all the requirements to finally select Solve, this Precheck will turn into a green check mark. Once more, this Precheck serves as a visual cue if we are now ready to solve. Typically, the steps in fulfilling the requirements of a static stress simulation is usually from left to right, which means we may have the need to simplify, define the materials, add constraints, add loads, define the contacts, and finally selecting Solve. Let's now start by defining the material of this study. I'm going to head over to Study Materials, and on the challenge it says plain carbon steel. Let's scroll down, head to the steel section, and I'm seeing here steel carbon. Let's select this, selecting OK. Next, let's define or add the constraints. Heading up to Constraints, selecting Structural Constraints. The type to be fixed. and we are going to fix this 3 cylinders. Selecting OK, and finally apply loads. Selecting structural loads, the type to be a force, and for the target it will be this face, the magnitude to be 500. In addition, make it a habit to check if the units is in the right ones. So here we are required to apply 500 newtons. Direction type, normal. Let's now select OK. And notice our pre-check is now a green check mark, which gives us a go signal to finally select solve. But before that, a simulation study needs to be saved in the cloud. So I'm going to hit Control S. Let me name this as 02-sim. Selecting save. I know this is saved because from untitled, this now has a name of 02-sim. Let's now select solve. Notice the simulation requires 5 cloud credits if this will be solved on the cloud. Let's save some cloud credits. I'm going to solve this locally using my computer's processing power. Selecting solve. Results complete. The actual safety factor minimum is 3.88. Let me close this one. Same with our job status. Let's head over to our color bar. And notice, based on the color green, we have reached satisfactory result for safety factor. The blue ones being the best. In addition, I can select this drop down to view the stress effects, the displacement, the reaction, and strain. In addition, we can visualize the results further by animating. But first, I'm going to change the displacement to stress. Next, heading up to Results Tools, selecting Animate, and I prefer selecting two-way, leaving the defaults, and let's play the animation. From here, requesting you to repeat the steps and perform the simulation on our Phase 1 model. The question is, which of the two has a greater factor of safety? That question, I'm going to be leaving up to you. And that's the static stress simulation for SOLIDWORKS Model Mania 2012 made in Fusion 360.